My name is Chris. I'm a wedding photographer in the Cotswolds area, and I've been shooting weddings for about 4-5 years now. Today's video should hopefully be about telling you what lenses you should look to bring to your first wedding. So I shoot with a Canon R mirrorless range. There are plenty of other camera systems out there that you could look to use. I would prioritize going full frame just because it gives you better low light capabilities, but I've seen amazing results with crop sensor cameras as well. So use whatever camera you have. Ultimately, it's not the gear that's going to make you. And while I'm talking about lenses and gear that I bring to weddings, this is absolutely not what I started with, and I'll give you some comparisons and contrasts as we go through. But the most important thing is that you understand what focal lengths are likely to be used more frequently throughout the day. So, as I said, shoot with the Canon R6. This is my absolute beast. I've had this probably 3 years now, and it's good practice to have a second body because, well, for me, I have both lenses on my harness. I've got a leather strap that holds both these cameras on my hips, and it gives me the ability to shoot multiple angles throughout the day, which means I'm less reliant on a second photographer to capture different angles and different focal lengths, which allow me to tell the story in a much better way. And that's what I always try to do with couples. I try to retell their story through a myriad of different photos. I'm not trying to just give them one photo of each shot, but we'll get into that in a different video. This is just about the gear that I bring to a wedding and what I would recommend you look to bring in terms of focal length. So Canon R6, absolutely recommend. They're an amazing camera system. I did try the Sonys. To go off topic a second, because I did try the Sonys, but my hands are quite big, and I felt the Canons, the R6 in particular, fits really well in my hand. It's a decent weight. Because of the straps, I don't really get fatigue holding it all day long, and I can allow it to just sit and hang on the side of my shoulders. So I go for the camera system that fits me, but make sure you do your homework on that system. There are plenty of different camera systems out there, but I would prioritize trying to get something with full frame, something that's going to be really good at low light, especially if you're not used to using a flash system just yet, but you will need a flash for your evening shots. We'll get into that later. So for me, the Canon R6 is an absolute win there. The Sonys is just a bit too small in my hand. Nothing against Sony. I've got one of the Sony video cameras I use as a tripod shot if a couple wants just a recording of their ceremony. So I use Canon R6 for photos. I have 2 of these, absolutely amazing. And when I did my first wedding, I used a 24-70. Now I'm going to use this flask in replacement because I've since got rid of it because I got a different lens. So pretend this is the 24-70 Canon R6 lens. What I actually had was the Tamron G2, I believe, which is a brilliant lens. If you can pick it up secondhand, you can get it for a really good price. 24-70, really, really great. I'm primarily prime lens shooting these days, but I would say the 24-70 taught me what focal lengths were really good for wedding photography. And then as I was editing photos after a couple, I could see what focal lengths I was using and sort of falling into mostly. And for me, that tended to be 35-50 primarily. And at the long end, I felt like 70 wasn't really enough, so I was having to step in a little bit more than I would like to. But 24-70, flask mug, comic joke, whatever. But yeah, 24-70, you should look to have in your camera bag if you're doing your first wedding. If you want to go all out and go prime, you can, and I'd recommend you go with a 35 and 85 setup. That gives you a good variability, and that's actually what I do at some weddings as well, depending on the time and size of the day. But I started with a 24-70, so that's what I'm going to recommend you put in your bag. It allows you to learn and gauge the wedding day a bit better, and you can get some good experience when you reflect on your wedding days afterwards. The next lens I bought was the Canon 50mm. This is the 1.8 Nifty 50. It's a wonderful lens. I take this with me pretty much everywhere when I go hiking, but I don't use this for professional work anymore. After I did my first 2 or 3 weddings, I invested and got this baby. So this is the 50mm 1.2. I absolutely love this lens. I've put a little skin on it, as you can see. It's pretty cool. Little honeycomb detail. But I put that on it more to protect it, because when I've got them hanging, they can bang and bump into things. But I treat my gear like they're tools, not like they're antiques that need to be protected. So it's all insured. If it breaks, I can get it replaced. I don't worry about any of that on the day. I'm sure that's going to get some hate comments in the video later. But the 50mm, whether you go for the 1.8 Nifty 50, you can get it for 150 quid second hand these days, 200 quid brand new, or you can get the 1.2 if you're able. This goes anywhere between 1800 to 2200. Sales go up and down, keep a lookout for it, but I'd recommend the 50mm. It should be a staple in your camera bag at all times, and it will really get you used to the bokeh that you can get, which is the blurry backgrounds. I'm sure you've watched other YouTube videos to tell you what bokeh is. I'll maybe explain that in a different video if people want me to, but the 50mm is amazing. Now, just one topic, one note. Even though these are both 50, I did a side-by-side comparison, and I found that this one was just a hair tighter. I'm not sure if that's to do with the focal length. Just something I noticed. So yeah, the 50mm should absolutely be a staple, whether you go for the Nifty 50 or the big boy. Both very, very good lenses. And I would say I did use this for the first 3 or 4 weddings, and the quality of this lens is amazing. I wouldn't say actually I noticed a great deal of difference in the quality. It's still an amazing lens. This is much sharper, but for photos that people are going to be putting in wedding albums, for candid shots, for ceremonies, this is brilliant just to get some nice candid shots. The next lens I invested in was a 70 to 200 f2.8. Now, initially I got I believe it's f4 to 5.6, and it just wasn't enough to manage the low light in the evenings, primarily in speeches when I don't really want to be crossing and getting in the way. I use this if it's a large ceremony, or speeches when I want to get some close-ups sat in the back. Now, it's not typically my style to sit in the shadows and shoot from afar, but during the speeches, that's a very personal moment. I don't want to intrude too much, so this is what I use for that. It is absolutely amazing, and this combined with, remember, the 24 to 70 will get you through any wedding day. So if all you have is one camera and these 2 lenses, you can shoot any wedding. You'll just be swapping and changing between them. I would recommend getting a second body straight away, and with just the 2 of these, you can still capture amazing photos. No need to worry. The quality of this lens is amazing. I really do love it. I don't use it half as much as I probably should, but I tend to get really involved in the couple's wedding day, get nice and close where I can. So I've moved quite a lot into the prime lenses these days. But this is a wonderful lens. I'm gonna lay that down over here. So remember, we said 50mm, 24 to 70, and the 70 to 200. With these, I could safely shoot any wedding without any worry that I'm going to miss anything. It is, however, quite lazy. Having zoom lenses in your bag are useful if you're not very experienced, I would say. I've done a few weddings. Look to invest into a few prime lenses and you'll have a lot more fun. It gives you a bit more artistic flair, and it really brought a lot more enjoyment to the wedding day for me. Yeah, how many times am I going to say Let's see. One of the next lenses I got, because I found having the 24 to 70 on my lens in the evening was kind of redundant. I was getting a bit close, having fun in the evening, and wanted to capture some candids, and I found 80% of the photos were at 35 to 24mm. So with the Canon RF system, I got the 35mm 1.8. I am looking to upgrade this to the 1.4 as soon as I can. but I am very keen to not spend any money that I don't need to this year. But the 35 1.8 is amazing. The low light capability is phenomenal. The sharpness of this photo is just spectacular. And the lightweight, just when you put this on your camera in the evening, or I'd say after 8 p.m, most weddings, after, like for the first dance, I'll use some of these, but after the first dance, this is all I have on my camera. I put everything else away, and I just focus on having a good time, getting involved, and combined with my flash, which I'll talk about after this in a second, I can get some amazing photos. So 35mm for the evening is amazing. So if you want to add that into your bag, I would say that with the 50, you could, if you're comfortable enough, look to get rid of the 24-70. But you're really going to need to plan your shots and make sure you've got the right lens on the camera at the right time. Then the next lens I got was the Samyang 85 1.4. Now this is the EF version, and luckily enough with my Canon R system, they make these adapters with the control ring. I'll talk about how I use that control ring in a different video. Essentially, I set it to ISO, and with one hand I can do everything I need to. It works really well for me. But the 1.4, when I got this, it changed my wedding photography. I found out my portraits were more beautiful. The separation of the subject in the background was just amazing. And in my first year, I won an award with a local magazine with one of these cameras that I shot in the Cotswolds. Lens that I shot in the Cotswolds. So this will forever stay with me. I've thought about upgrading to the 1.2 Canon RF one, but it's not worth the extra stop. I can't make that argument. This was 400 quid, I think. This will never leave me. I'll keep this until the day I die, I think. Even if I ever quit photography, I'll still keep this because it's a beautiful lens. And actually the EF mount working with the RF converter, brilliant. If you're lucky enough to find these anywhere, I'd recommend you buy one straight away. Don't even question yourself. It is a phenomenal lens. If you can find one, get the RF one. I got the EF one and it works brilliant for me. And actually, with third-party lenses, I would recommend you get the EF version where possible, because it allows you to bring the control ring into play when you get the control ring adapter. So hot tip from me there. So 85. Now with the 50, the 35, and the 85, I had no more need for the 24-70. So I sold that at the point I got this, and I just started being very careful with the shots I was taking and planning them. And this was also in my bag for ceremonies and just in case shots, because I'm one of those photographers that has a bag big enough to bring everything with me. I don't carry everything on my back. I put everything into my camera bag that I need to bring with me, and I leave it in either the car or behind the bar or with the DJ, somewhere safe, zipped up and locked up in my camera bag, and just walk around with the lenses I need. So a bit risky. Probably have some people tell me I'm very stupid for that, but 4 years in, no one's done anything, and it's never out of sight. It's always near where I am, in the same room or within eyesight. These three lenses sort of became my staple for my whole second year. Brilliant, brilliant lenses, and the 35 is just, it's so light, why wouldn't you bring it? So then there's always one shot in the day that I always found very awkward, because while my 35mm has macro capabilities, I found myself struggling to get decent ring shots, and I didn't yet invest in a proper macro lens. So I went ahead and bought the 100mm EF again, because I'm not investing stupid money in something I'm going to use for one shot, and it really is a lens I only use for the rings. I don't think I need this anymore, because I recently found out you can, drum roll please, I don't think I need this anymore because I recently found out you can get these called macro rings, and this paired with my 35mm, I would say take far better shots, and it's a lot less to carry, and for the 2 minutes I'm using it, absolutely fine. I don't think anyone would be able to tell the difference unless they were a photographer, and to be honest, I can barely tell the difference occasionally. It depends massively on the light source that you're using, as well as the angles that you're using to take the photography with. Now, this is incredibly sharp, but it's just a monster of a lens for something you're using for a couple of shots. I don't use it for portraits. I have done a couple of times, but I find the 50 is a much better portrait lens for that. So I'm actually looking at selling this pretty soon, and recommend you pair the 35mm with a couple of macro rings. Save yourself some money. You can get these for, I think these are 35 quid. Great bargain, good saving. Without a question, I'd buy that every single time. So you can get 100mm if you need macro shots. I don't recommend it. I think it's a waste of money and a waste of space in your camera bag. So that goes in the back. And then the lens I purchased this year was a big investment. It was something that I saw the hype for on YouTube, and I thought I'll rent it for a day and see how I get on with it. I had a wedding coming up, so I rented it for the wedding day, and I used it pretty much the entire wedding. And it is the 28-70 f2 all the way through. It is my favorite lens. I put this on my A cam, and it does not leave my A cam the entire day until into the evening when I put the 35mm on it. And this is a beauty of a lens. Yes, it's not as shallow depth of field with the higher f-stop than the 50 or the 85, or even the 35 for that matter. But I would say since I've had this, I barely use the 50 at all. In fact, I bring it to some weddings just because I feel guilty that it's sitting in my drawer. Pretty much for the last 7 weddings I've done, I've not touched the 50. I've got 50mm within this lens, and it goes to f2. That is more than enough for me for the shots I'm taking. Once you get a bit more experience, you realise you don't want to go super wide, and it's best to stay within a reasonable focal length. This is a beauty of a lens. I would buy this 10 times over any chance I get, and it will never ever leave my side. I still keep the 85 because it gives me the extra reach. So sometimes, depending on the size of the ceremony, I'll pair this with the 85. If it's a church or a really big venue, then I'll pair this with the 28-70, with the 70-200. And these give me everything I need. Now, I know I said earlier, primes give you a bit more of an artistic feel. And I think what I should have said was learning how to shoot photos with primes teaches you how to frame your shots and know and expect what you're going to get from that shot without having to mess with the zoom too much. And I have to say, I go back and forth between the 85 and 28-70 and the 50 and back and forth sometimes. But if I was getting my camera set up now, I would probably just go with these 4 lenses, and 9 times out of 10, this is all I bring to a wedding day, is everything I need to capture all the weddings I capture, and I do anywhere between 17 to 25 weddings a year. If you have the money, once you've done 5, 6, 7 weddings and you've put the money aside, get this lens. Don't even question yourself. Just get it if you can afford it. Do not get it on a credit card. Do not get into debt for this lens. But it's so worth it. So my big beauty aside, the lens I got because I had a bit of FOMO because I didn't have anything super wide. I actually use for multiple reasons the 17 to 40mm f4 is a L series lens. It is incredibly sharp. It is also the EF mount because I'm not paying 1,500 quid for something I can get for 400 quid. In fact, I think this was 216 quid at my local camera shop, secondhand. It is very good. Lives in my camera bag. It is mainly for first dance because the f4 means I can get some good depth of field without losing focus on the couple when they're moving around on the dance floor. The low light capabilities I was really surprised by going to f4. I didn't think it would be that good. Still very, very good. And I also now use this in my photo booth that I built. So in the evening, I put my B camera with this, chuck it in my photo box and stick my photo booth in the corner of their wedding venue, and that's a additional add-on to my wedding packages that couples can book and hire and use, and that just allows me to use this lens, which is perfect for the photo booth setup. So I don't regret getting this lens. I don't recommend you get it. I have a secondary use for this lens. I don't think I need it for wedding photography at all, but it's very good for the photo booth. So I'll pop that over there because I don't want to distract anyone from it. And then, so we've been through the lenses, been through the gear setup. So my first year, I had 2 cameras. In fact, my first camera was the Canon R, just the first one they brought out, and I had the 28-70, the 24-70, and the 70-200. And this is what I went to my first wedding with. I was super nervous, super cautious, but I didn't have a lot of gear with me. I then upgraded this to my 50 and then my 35. And this is what I had for most of my second year. And towards the end of my second year, I added the 85mm into this. And then this year, I have added the 28-70 into my gear. And I don't bring this as much, just when I feel guilty. This still stays in my bag, as does the 35. And these are the 4 main lenses I now use at my weddings, with the 2 Canon R6s, along with the macro rings. I can get every shot that I need to get to make sure that the couple can relive their story through the photos that I deliver in their gallery. Now, lighting. What do I bring? So I've had this flash for probably verging on three years now, and it's a brilliant flash. It is the Godox V1. Watched a bunch of different YouTube videos to work out which flash to go for. I bought a couple of different ones and I just couldn't get on with them, and the Godox was brilliant. So I have a off-camera mount for this as well if I need it, and I paired that in the first year with the X Pro C. The C stands for Canon flash receiver. The annoying thing is it takes batteries, so not always the best, but it does the job. Connects to the flash, and away I can shoot. But I can also stick this on top of the camera, and it takes beautiful photos. You can get magnetic add-ons to change the light, change the hue, or you can get a dome which diffuses the light. I find that's still a bit harsh, so what I actually use is this big marshmallow of a thing, and this simply clips into here and allows me to get a much softer light, which is great for adding some ambient light into the room. It's great for a fill light during the daytime, or when I'm on the dance floor, I pair this with my 35mm and it sits on my hip the entire evening with the camera on it, and I can take amazing photos with this one camera and my 35mm. Absolutely love it. Most of the time I'm shooting manual, anywhere between 64 and 32. However, during the day I set it to ETTL because there's too much variation with the lights and the clouds when you're outside, so it's smart enough to know what it needs to be doing. I try not to think about that where I can. I do, however, shoot every single photo in manual mode. I don't like the auto programs that the cameras have built in. They tend to miss the focus or miss the point that you're trying to shoot, or the aperture's just not right. And my workflow, I've just learned to shoot from day one with using just manual settings on the camera, but I do let the flash work out what it needs to do. This is getting to the edge of its life. They're starting to get some burn marks on the edge of the lens, so I'll probably be upgrading this to the Godox V1C Pro in the next few weeks, and I might do a video on that, see how people like it. Now, one of the biggest things I did change in this lighting setup was I found I was getting some more church venues that had beautiful architecture that I wanted to do some faraway shots and light the couple as well as light them up from behind. So I got one of these 80 AD100 Pros. Very good. Primary reason I got this one over any of the other ones was this is pocketable. It's pretty much the size of a lens. It fits very neatly in my camera bag. Also, it takes the same batteries as the V1C. So it means I've got 2 batteries for either this or this, and it allows me to do everything I need to should anything go wrong. And it's really handy. It's really good. And also, because it's the same round mount, this fits here as well. So I try to find multiple uses for anything I buy, because I don't want to be caught in that loop of having one thing for one reason. Much like my 100mm macro lens, if I'm spending money on something, it needs to be providing multiple reasons as to why I'm spending money on it. I did get annoyed with having to change the batteries on this every now and then. The indication on it for what the battery life is like is not the best. In fact, I'm not sure of it. Yeah, it does tell you, but it says it's full. I've had it die on me when it says it's full occasionally. So one of the things I've bought recently, now that they've released it, is the USB-C X3. This is brilliant. It is far smaller than the previous, and it does exactly the same thing. It allows me to connect multiple flashes. I can go up to 4, 5, 6 flashes with this thing, and fire away. I've only got the 2, so I've got no need for using its complete feature. But one of the things I like the most is it's USB-C powered, so I can put this on my power wall that I've built, make sure everything's charged up, and I'll talk about that in my wedding preparation video that I'll do shortly. But I would recommend getting the X3 flash receiver and the V1C Pro if you can. That's the newer version, which I'll be upgrading to shortly as well. And then if you have need for a second flash, I would highly recommend the AD100 Pro. I've used it 4 or 5 times. It's brilliant. The way it works is very similar to Godox V1, and the fact that it takes the same battery is a lifesaver for me. So hopefully that's given you some education as to what you should look to bring into your camera bag for your weddings. If you've got any other questions, give me a shout. Love to hear from you. This is my second video, so let me know how it's going. I'm a bit nervous. I don't like talking to camera. It's very weird. I'm getting used to it, but hopefully you like the content. Don't feel like you need to subscribe, but a like or a comment to tell me how it went would be much appreciated. Take it easy.